your hand off of me. Seriously, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Oh, sorry, my bad. My bad.
So, welcome
to Le IT Department.
with a new recording setup, so it doesn't sound different. I don't know.
Oh no, it may not sound that different at all. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Comment if it sounds different. If it does, yell at us. Ready? We're looking to you.
Yeah. You better type it in all caps.
Yeah, ready? Tell us you're all losers. Go to bed.
Because we have a table next to where we record, and then we were too dumb to ever think to actually use it, because up until that point we always had it...
Sitting with Tim.
Yes, the computer was in Tim's lap.
Which is weird.
For every episode of the podcast.
Because it was kind of uncomfortable to hold, but now this is better.
A little bit. Yeah, now Tim can actually move around like I can.
And leave the room, and Lee can tell you to comment something, but don't.
I would never.
Don't do it. I'm not sure they heard that.
I don't know.
Alright.
If you didn't hear what Tim said, he said to once again comment that I am dumb. I'm asking you not to. Please.
Do it. Do it.
It's not the Jedi way, Tim.
I need him.
Well, he's too dangerous to be left alive.
I'm too weak.
We need to move on, because this is not a quoting episode.
More tally marks.
Yeah.
Alright.
We do still have the paper here, so...
Ian,
Yeah.
do you have anything for maintenance?
Nope.
Well, I was been working on for maintenance, I've been working on the IT department Twitter, and it was suspended.
Why?
No clue.
What are people doing to the Twitter handle?
I called an appeal. I appealed to Twitter, and just yesterday they said your account is unbanned, is unsuspended.
Okay, so
I don't know.
Okay, so you had created one when?
About last week.
Okay, last week,
and then a couple of days ago, I was like, all right, let's go get this thing up and running, and then all of a sudden,
suspended.
Yep, I believe that handles at IT department, but the T in department's one. Because it was like a Twitter-made handle for some reason.
Oh, okay then.
That's dumb. Ian will get the link in the description eventually.
So we are now I1 department?
It's the IT department, but the last letter of department's a letter 1.
Huh.
It's IT department 1.
Okay, you know what? If that doesn't end up working out, I might try to make a Twitter account.
Okay.
Because I have the Facebook handle, and see if that works for the Twitter account.
Okay.
But updates to come later.
Yeah. Hopefully I get that working soon.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, is that everything we got for maintenance?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving to research and development.
Yes, moving to development and research. Ian, I'll let you go first.
Well, man, Black Panther comes out in 3 weeks. It's a very, very small thing, and I know we already talked about it last week, so we won't talk about that much.
What about Manape?
No, Tim. We will talk more about him when the movie comes out, okay?
It'll probably be our highest viewed episode.
Yeah. The highest viewed episode will be the one where we don't expect it to be the highest viewed episode.
It's the first episode, and then after that will be the second will be the Black Panther episode, because everyone gets super hyped with each Marvel movie. So
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
And this is, well, just as an aside for that, because that's something I didn't bring up. Like, this is the first, with the exception of the 2 Guardians of the Galaxies, the first Marvel movie to have like its own designated like soundtrack, like album with songs and whatnot. So there's something for you.
All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, I'm gonna bring up something that actually isn't on our list, but I remembered. Guess what got canceled?
What got canceled, Tim?
Inhumans.
Oh wait. Dang it! I was actually gonna guess that.
Well, then why didn't you?
Because I thought it was, that was too predictable and it was going to be something else.
But no, it's Inhumans. Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Okay.
Everything's Inhumans. I haven't even watched it, and I kind of looked at it like ABC can't do TV shows.
Yeah.
The only Marvel TV shows I heard that are good are half of the Netflix Marvel TV shows.
Yeah.
Only half.
Mm-hmm.
And those are Daredevil season 1 and 2, a bit of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Fist, I heard, was completely idiotic. Marvel's Defenders was almost as bad as Iron Fist, they said.
Okay.
And then other seasons of other things are done.
Okay.
So, you know.
Well,
I haven't heard anything
yeah.
I haven't heard anything about Punisher, so you know, because I don't really care.
Well, that's much more of a raw kind of deal. What's going on there?
Yeah. Also,
but I've heard from friends personally, and also what I've seen from critics and other people on the interweb, is that they do like Punisher quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil is kind of that more raw kind of thing, and then Punisher takes it up a notch even more. So
way too much. I'm guessing minigun style. Bam, 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 bam.
No.
Darn.
I don't know. I
don't know either.
Well, I just know that the character is definitely.
Did you know as well? Just to reiterate along with that, Netflix said that the Marvel TV shows will not go into Disney streaming service. They'll stay on Netflix.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because they're Netflix exclusive. They can't go away.
Also, because Disney probably wouldn't want to. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know the exact morality limits of Disney.
They are trying to sever all ties with Netflix.
True. Yeah.
And then they bought Fox because they were afraid that Netflix was going to take over. And
that's the reason they bought Fox?
Yep, they bought Fox because they were afraid Netflix is going to take over the entertainment industry.
Did Disney forget who they were? Or
well,
I recognize how big Netflix is.
Netflix is big enough that they raised their prices like $2, and almost no one left.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's actually never.
And then they said, hey, if you want high definition, you have to pay $10. If you want standard definition, you have to pay the normal $8. If you want 4K, you have to pay like $14.
Can you say monopoly?
Yeah, because Hulu has nothing on them. It's owned 60% by Disney now.
Yeah.
Well, I did learn something.
There's a factor.
I did learn something else with the Fox Disney deal. That it won't take place. It won't happen until a year after they bought it, because of all the law stuff. The lawyers, lawyers have to check it, and they said it estimated to take about a year until.
Yeah, that makes sense because this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's going on. So. Yeah.
Disney gets 40% of the entertainment industry.
That's quite a lot. How much is Netflix, out of curiosity?
I don't know. But they probably have an 80% monopoly over the streaming industry.
No doubt, yeah.
But I don't know.
Oh, Amazon Prime may be up there. No?
I wouldn't think so.
Well, I know obviously Netflix is the largest.
Yeah, maybe they'll be better with the Lord of the Rings TV show.
We shall see.
I don't really want that TV show to happen.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to watch it, but
But
we'll
the guy who played Gandalf wants to come back and be in the TV show.
Ian McKellen?
Yeah, that guy.
Nice.
I knew his name was Ian. So.
But it's not me because I'm not British and I'm not as cool as Ian McKellen.
Ha. All right. Do you have another thing, Ian?
You know what? Actually, I do. I'm going to pull it up here, so you go ahead and move on to your next thing.
Okay. So DC has been in a lot of trouble lately with them firing directors, firing executives and such.
Yeah.
And they announced their completely new film slate. And guess what? The completely new film slate has only 6 films.
That's
about half
that's not much for a cinematic universe.
Half of them being sequels.
Okay.
Justice League 2. Wonder Woman 2.
Yes.
Man of Steel 2.
Well, yeah. Well,
Then there's a Flashpoint that we talked about last week.
Yeah. Man of Steel 2 is something that was originally planned from the get-go after the first Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And then it slowly started to evolve, or in some cases devolve, into Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Because Zack Snyder said that Batman vs Superman is not Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
That, Soup's going to get another standalone film. Is there any word about, because, one of the most rumored things I've heard from the DC film area is stuff about Ben Affleck. About whether or not he's going to be reprising.
Most likely, it seems Ben Affleck will not be in the new Batman movie. Batman standalone film.
Yeah.
It'll be someone else.
That's my understanding. The Matt Reeves Batman movie, he won't be...
It'll be someone else, there'll be a different Joker, and they might be Robin. They're like saying they're making the main DC universe, and then to make a good movie, they're making a Bizarro universe. Everything's different. Bizarro with quotation marks, the fake ones.
So, yeah, that makes sense. And if you don't know, Matt Reeves is the director of that Batman solo film, who also directed the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, which we will talk about later. Okay, actually, I don't have it pulled up yet because
we were talking.
Yeah.
Okay,
let me see. Oh God, this is good. Bring up your next thing.
Okay.
As I pull this up.
All right. How about Ryan Johnson was in an interview recently and talked about what the possibilities of Ray's origins originally were.
Of Ray's origins?
Yeah.
Is that what you were trying to say? Okay.
Origins originally were. Basically, he said they had a big old document, many, many pages thick.
Many?
Yeah.
Ooh, thick.
Yeah, and he said where they all had ideas. Stuff like, she was a clone. Maybe she was a robot.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I'd go for a clone, maybe, because, the Force Unleashed, 2 had that kind of cool thing going on, but maybe that wouldn't fit within the
reason they said robot was, they said, Luke had the one robot hand that had the skin all over it,
So they want to go to like full Terminator.
Yeah, basically he said, the idea was that the technology had come far enough that was just full skin robot.
Well,
because you've seen the prequels, Anakin has to wear a black glove because it's always robotic. In the original trilogy, he has the actual skin hand.
Yeah.
It looks like skin hand. And then they're like, okay, 30 years have passed. Technology's good enough that could just be a full-on Terminator.
Well, yeah, see, the thing with that, the robot idea, I mean, you just hear it and you're just kind of like, because that can be a really cool thing in sci-fi, and Star Wars is technically sci-fi, but it's not that kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
But, like, when you think of sci-fi, you don't think of Star Wars, even if it is, technically speaking, science fiction, but it's more on the space opera adventure side of things. Which is great, because Star Wars really works that way. But yeah, I wouldn't. Keep organisms and droids separate, and it's okay if you have like prosthetics, but a full-on Terminator in the Star Wars universe would be it.
So they had a lot of ideas for people's relating to other things. Like, oh yeah, we had a lot of ideas like this character's child or this character's child. And they said eventually went with their choice because they wanted to make the protagonist have to. The protagonist has to characterize himself. Because if Rey was the daughter of Palpatine, she would obviously have the Palpatine regalness, and everyone would categorize her like that.
Was that an actual theory?
That was an actual theory.
Oh my!
There was the idea that she was a Skywalker that was abandoned.
That was the most popular theory.
And so people identified her as if she was a Skywalker, she'd have the same whininess, which she has, the same sort of attitude, of sometimes angry, sometimes not.
Yeah.
But because she, spoilers, doesn't have parents that are in, that we know of at all.
We'll say,
they're
from the information we have, parents that are not really that relevant.
Yeah. From parents not really relevant, she has to stand on her own as her own character, which is what he thinks is the most important part of the middle movie of the trilogy. Luke kind of made himself into what he was because he was kind of going he was still that whiny kid who knew what the Force was, but by the end he had lost his hand and he had more better defined himself. Anakin slightly did that. Third movie in the trilogy was more for him though in the prequels,
right?
Because that's where he went full dark side. But this is where she cemented herself as she's a good guy. She's not going to go bad.
I am Jedi.
I am the last Jedi, basically.
See you around, kid. More quotes. So wait, is that it for that?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd quite like the choice because honestly.
I know.
It wrote all the fan theories and
Well, here's the thing. I'm not. Sorry, let me rephrase that.
I know.
When it comes to speculation. I really don't mind it unless it gets on the extreme side. If I know it's being like deliberately, like ironically extreme, like the whole Jar Jar Binks Snoke thing, and you know that's like a joke, and
But it wasn't.
Unless it wasn't, in which case if speculation is like within the realm of reason, then I'm just like, hey, I can maybe get behind that.
Yeah.
And like the same kind of thing went for like the expanded universe after, you know, the Return of the Jedi, and you started getting out all the books and, you know, various things from LucasArts.
Yeah.
And it seemed kind of like some of the stuff that came out of the expanded universe was like, hey, that's really cool. I like that. And other stuff was just like, that's too weird. What?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I feel, for me personally, sometimes that's what fan theories can be.
Yeah.
Is like too much on the weirder side. But because honestly, there was a story I told you, and then I may have said it on the podcast or maybe not. But like the guy who walked out of the theater when I watched The Last Jedi, because you know it's like it was the moment where, you know, it's like deliberately said, you know, it's just like your parents were nobodies.
Yeah.
And then the guy walked to a theater because he was like, no, it was like he's like, she has to have like a deliberate origin. She has to be like Luke Skywalker's daughter or like whatever. I didn't mind that. I thought that was actually, I was just like, that's like a risk that paid off. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, that there's no special lineage.
A lot of people are mad about Last Jedi, obviously. And one of the defining factors by a lot of people have found is that people are too caught up in like what they wanted the movie to be.
Exactly.
Because they were expecting to be like, oh, this is going to happen. Luke's going to like kill Kylo Ren, but he didn't.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't want that to happen.
You know.
Because Adam Driver does freaking great as Kylo Ren, and this new trilogy is about these new characters, you know, specifically Rey and Kylo Ren, that relationship, and that was like the best part of the movie.
Did you watch the video I told you to watch?
The like I Hate Everything?
On The Last Jedi, yeah.
No.
Well, basically, he talks about how people are so mad about the movie because of how the characters are portrayed, but he says the person to blame is not Rian Johnson, it's J.J. Abrams. You want to know why?
It was like because of the setup, or?
Well, because J.J. Abrams is obsessed with this idea of a mystery box.
Okay, yeah.
He's passing his property off to someone. He doesn't want to like give anything about their origins away, anything specific about the character. He's like, you know, it makes people think, it makes people wonder about stuff.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, in the case of Rian Johnson, he was left with, I have no direction.
Yeah.
And so the idea of this mystery box ruined Last Jedi for many, many people.
Yeah.
You know, it's just Rian Johnson had no direction. The writing team had no direction. J.J. Abrams, which executive produced, probably still is on the idea of it's a mystery box. What's going to happen? You know, and he's like, he had a whole interview where he talked about this, how great this idea of mystery boxes. And I read it. I was listening to him like, or at least a bit of it. It was like, I Hate Everything. Right. He's like, mystery box is where you don't establish the character and let someone else do it for you. And like, that's not a good way to make a movie. And if you think about The Force Awakens, you can see how he does that. Like, no characters like given definitive like characterization. It's kind of like all left vague. And that oftentimes is what I think helped ruin The Last Jedi for a ton of people.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I think it worked for Force Awakens.
Yeah.
But that kind of mystery box idea, to keep you, you know, guessing and wondering about what'll happen next, and that's fine. I think it worked for Force Awakens, but you know, I'm with you on the point that I think that there should have been like more of a general plan of what they wanted to do with this new trilogy, because you know JJ did Force Awakens and Ryan did Last Jedi, but you know when Disney was, you know, planning out this thing, or lack thereof, because there was no plan, they were just like, we're gonna make 3 Star Wars movies, we really don't have like a basic plot line to it, and that's where I will agree is like part of that lack of consistency is that mystery box idea, which I think worked in Force Awakens.
Yeah, I can see how it worked.
But there needed to be more solid stuff.
Yeah. My opinion on The Last Jedi is kind of like devolved to the point where it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It makes sense in the universe that how everything happened.
Yeah.
I just don't like exactly what it stands for. It's kind of like it's a safe cookie cutter movie. Let's just make that and make tons of money. You know, I don't like what it stands for. It's a good made movie, well made movie. It's just I don't like what it stands for a lot of times.
And to give you a personal example, because I'll say it for like the 53rd time, Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars film. And something that you had said earlier that made me think of this was one of the reasons that people are acting, negatively towards Last Jedi is because of their own expectations.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this: the first time I had seen Rogue One. Okay. Now, just a reminder, when it comes to movies I really want to see, I only basically watch just the first teaser, and then that's it, because I don't want to give too much to myself away. Even if trailers aren't spoilery, I know that it's a possibility that they can be, so I avoid them. So I just watched the first teaser. So I watched the first teaser for Rogue One, and then many months passed by, and then I finally see the movie. And walking out of the theater, I was satisfied, but I had those doubts. It's like, is this as good as I want it to be? That kind of thing. And then I watched it a second time, and then I strangely walked out of the second viewing feeling worse, because it's just like, oh my gosh, maybe I don't like this movie kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But the third time, it was the moment where as soon as the logo came and you hear the music, and it was just it's oh, I'm gonna shut up because I just like this movie. I'm all my little nitpickings and all that, and I realized it was because I'd only watched just that first teaser.
Yeah. It
cuts both ways. On the one hand, I didn't see that much of what could be considered as spoiling the film or whatever, even in the least
even
degree.
Though half the stuff in that trailer wasn't in the movie.
But and that's the thing. But on the other hand, not seeing any of those and only seeing the 1.5 minute teaser, seeing less of what the film would actually be, let me create more of a personal image of what I thought it would be. I thought it would be much more of a military, kind of war movie, a little darker than I thought.
Seeing all the trailer.
Then I forgot. I had initially forgotten, and like I said on the third viewing, that was when I finally, shut up my critical side of things. So I was just like, what, my nitpicking doesn't matter, and I love this movie. The reason was because I kind of forgot that it was still a Star Wars movie, and I wanted it to be just straight up war movie in the Star Wars universe, and I forgot. It's what, that probably wouldn't have been very safe.
Yeah.
So, that's just to give a personal example of, for me, how I can kind of understand this backlash towards Last Jedi for expectations going in, because that was me to a certain degree with Rogue One, where I just okay, never mind, that's my own fault for my false expectations and
And end this thought on The Last Jedi with one thing, with just talking about Rian Johnson and how he's doing his own trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, given his own trilogy by himself, it'll receive a lot more praise and be a lot better than The Last Jedi was.
When he doesn't have that kind of
he established his own characters.
Right, yeah.
And because it's not going to have any Skywalkers, it's not going to be anywhere in the Star Wars universe, it's just going to be in the Star Wars universe anytime. Prequels, maybe original trilogy, maybe sequels, maybe just somewhere they won't tell us.
Right. He has that kind of more creative freedom, we'll say. He's not, it's not to say that there's no boundaries, there's obviously still boundaries, I hope. Because if there's no boundaries, then we might get some weird expanded universe type stuff. So I hope there's still boundaries, but there's more of a creative direction.
Yeah.
And I see what you're saying. There's less of a critical eye, because it's not the main episodic thing.
Yeah. All right.
Is that the last thing you have for that?
Yeah, it's the last thing. I have one more news thing, but that's the last thing for that.
Okay. Well, what I have here, and we're not gonna do the whole thing because we're just gonna go over some Oscar nominations, but only those that are we find relevant to the podcast.
The fact that the Shape of Water got 16 nominations.
13, I think. 13. Something like that, yeah.
Jesus Louise. It doesn't break the record for how many nominations were won by a movie, though.
No. That would be, what, Titanic?
Return of the King.
Oh, that's right!
Yeah. Go look it up, see how many
there was I think... Well, I'm going to need to keep this page open, because I'm on the interweb for this information.
Ian doesn't know things.
Yeah. I have Alzheimer's, and I can't remember.
Dell update. 3 updates are ready to
Tim, where am I?
I forgot.
Who are you?
Looked
Okay.
up what.
No, I think BBC also did like a little list here. Yeah, there's some Tim Allen stuff for you.
All right.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try and find. Come on.
Just look up what movie won the most Oscars.
Which film won the most Oscars? Okay.
I believe.
Nominations, films with 11 wins. Yeah, so Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is among them.
Oh,
but
okay.
also Titanic.
Ben-Hur.
The original Ben-Hur. Yeah, those top three got 11 wins
Okay.
for that.
Cool.
So there's your answer. But anyway, back to the upcoming Oscars. So we'll just, like I said, we'll just do the stuff relevant to the podcast. So for Best Picture, Dunkirk
Yeah.
is on there.
Hope it wins.
Probably won't.
Probably won't.
Oh well, I'm glad it.
Shape of Water.
I'm glad it
Shape
got a
of Water is
nomination.
one of those movies that
Yeah.
made for the Oscars.
It's viewers, if you like The Shape of Water and think it's a great film, I'm not saying it's not, but it's one of those things that we call Oscar bait.
Yeah. Like La La Land.
Now, that's not to say it's not a good movie. Don't misunderstand. No.
It's
Okay?
just one of those.
But I'm just saying.
La La
that
Land was a great film.
I'm just saying that it is possible for other great movies to get it. Okay?
Yeah.
Moving on.
La La Land was Oscar bait last year, and it was a great film.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Look down. See if there's any relevant movies that we like.
Yeah, but we're going down. Okay. So Dunkirk also for Christopher Nolan for Best Director.
Best adapted screenplay, Logan.
Yeah, that was the thing that I read. That's what I should mention. That's the first for superhero movies.
Disaster Artist as well.
Because before, like, the only things superhero movies got are like visual effects things, and the only other superhero movie that got any other kind of award before that was The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Which Heath Ledger won the
Best Actor.
Best Supporting Actor award for that posthumously.
Just as like
Okay.
a little nice thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Best original score.
Dunkirk once again for Hans Zimmer, my boy. John Williams, of course, for Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Yep.
Best animated feature. I'm gonna go for Coco.
I've only seen one of those films. That was The Boss Baby, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, because Pixar's Pixar, man.
Yeah. Best cinematography.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that I want to talk about, the more kind of production type of awards, because I know like most people like to focus on like the big three, the best actor, the big four, best actor, best actress, best picture, best director, those kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm actually kind of fascinated by what goes on in like the production level.
And then best cinematography, Dunkirk, hopefully.
I don't know, Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner, has some pretty cool.
Has some good stuff.
Has some pretty cool visuals.
I mean, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
From what I've seen from it, though, did some cool stuff. Best costumes, Beauty and the Beast. Who cares?
I don't know. Best production design, Dunkirk. And Blade Runner again.
I did watch the new Beauty and the Beast. It was a letdown because Ewan McGregor wasn't in it enough. And they stretched it out for 2.5 hours. No.
We'll get there. Yeah, so it's like, and the main thing I want to talk about with these Oscar nominations is the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. So our nominations are Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and War for the Planet of the Apes. My money is on Planet of the Apes, please.
Yeah, I would think so as well.
Because some of the stuff they do in Blade Runner 2049 is actually miniatures.
Oh.
And it's actually really cool. It's like from Weta Workshop. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the stuff they do with Groot and Rocket I think is still very good. And some of the ego stuff is I think very cool. Kong Skull Island, of course, Kong and all that.
It's a giant monkey.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
ILM, they know how to do Star Wars.
I think the only superb visual effects were in the casino scenes. Even those were sometimes not very good.
Yeah. I'll say my favorite visual effects shots from this new trilogy was the junkyard scene with the Millennium Falcon and the Force Awakens. That was very good.
My favorite one is the in Last Jedi where the ship goes at hyperspeed.
Yes,
the other ship.
yes,
that was great.
And then of course War for the Planet of the Apes.
Where half of it is visual
which
effects.
I sincerely hope that Oscar goes to that film because what way to digital is able to do with the creation of apes, and of course what Andy Serkis gives to the performance. This is the kind of thing that's just a side tangent here, real quick.
Topa noises.
That sci-fi, and I guess Planet of the Apes is technically sci-fi, right? A little bit science-y, fiction-y.
I don't know.
Not the most sci-fi, but okay.
The newer ones are more science fiction than the
Okay, so yeah, we'll just but sci-fi always gets a bad rap because, like we said earlier, they can be great films, but they really only get nominated for effects stuff, right?
Yeah.
Andy Serkis at least should get a nomination for his performance, like Best Actor. Like, I don't expect him to win
It's a blockbuster film. The Oscars are not for blockbusters; they're for films that change the world. I'm sure The Shape of Water changes the world in a way. I don't know.
And then of course, all that stuff.
That's the only nomination for award for Planet of the Apes. All right.
Which is kind of sad.
Yep.
Honestly, because it's one of the best films of 2017.
Yep.
Oh well. Moving on, because we're at the halfway point.
All right, one more thing I'll just bring up. The Dark Universe is in trouble because they're losing a lot of people. They are they held back their newest film, Bride of Frankenstein, till 2019. They've been trying to bring it back, and then the guy who was set to create the Invisible Man movie, starring Johnny Depp, left.
Oh man, this
they're trying to Universal has spoken out saying we are in the middle of a giant rebuilding process.
Oh no.
After the failure of The Mummy, I don't think they can bring it back.
No, this is something that nope.
Fourth time's the charm, I guess.
Nope.
They've made a Dracula movie trying to start it up a couple of years ago, failed. Made another Dracula movie starring the Will Turner guy from Pirates of the Caribbean, also failed. Then they made The Mummy, failed. So Bride of Frankenstein with Angelina Jolie, fourth time's the charm.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, they tried too hard, like Batman vs Superman, to create a cinematic universe. They already introduced their own version of S.H.I.E.L.D., but had fall to pieces way too quickly.
And the thing with that, because maybe they don't. The key to the success of building a cinematic universe is you take the small steps in the beginning. You don't instantly try to set up your Avengers in your first movie.
Yeah, that's what people don't often understand, because with Marvel, they start off with Iron Man 1.
Yeah. The sequel to the first Iron Man was not the Avengers.
Yeah.
It took more films, more well-made films that were, with good writing, some better than others. I'm looking at you, Iron Man 2, I'm sorry.
And 3. The parts
that was phase 2.
Bad.
But yeah, you have to take time to actually set up your characters.
Yeah. All right. So All right. Are we ready for the topic?
I am ready for today's mandatory meeting. And what is it today, Tim?
You chose, and it's the Andy Serkis Planet of the Apes trilogy.
That's right.
In honor of them getting one Oscar nomination.
Well, it wasn't exactly in honor of that. I was like,
sort of.
Technically speaking, because I saw it in the nominations list, so I was like, hey, let's talk about this.
All right.
But also because it is just a great film series.
All right.
And we're kind of overdue because we talk about Planet of the Apes a little more than regularly on the podcast. I was like, why don't we just do an episode already?
All right. I brought up the last point, R&D, so you bring up the first point in the mandatory meeting.
Well, just wow. Because my experience with Andy Serkis, this new Planet of the Apes trilogy was seeing Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in theaters. I had not watched Rise. Because I remember seeing trailers for Rise and being like, that could be cool, but I was like, I'll pass that up. And then I remember going to see Dawn and just being like, whoa. And then, being super excited to see War for Planet of the Apes. It was like, as soon as I saw the first trailer, it was like, this is going to be good. So, of course, I, went back to watch Rise.
With me.
With Tim. Yes, it was thanks much. But what Andy Serkis, he's just he's great.
Yeah.
As an actor. What he's able to do with Caesar is phenomenal, and of course, the effects people that create the apes. But the most important I can't speak anymore. The most important thing in a film is the writing.
Yep.
if the writing is not good, then everything else, I don't care how good you make your CGI chimpanzee look. If the writing sucks, then it's like it's like Transformers.
Yeah.
The visual effects are, cool. It's cool to see.
Part.
Yeah, for the most part, especially particularly the beginning, the first film. But the writing was just like, eh.
Yeah.
What Planet of the Apes is able to do was combine that kind of great writing, great performances from their actors, with great visual effects, produce a freaking great series of movies.
They can't ruin one of the biggest fantasy film franchises ever.
Yeah.
The newer films are sci-fi.
But I see what you're saying.
The older films are completely fantasy.
Yeah.
In their way until they get to movie 4, 3, and 5.
Because what was the
S.
original Planet of the Apes? When did that come out?
1968. It turns 50 this
So
year.
that wasn't quite, like the golden age of sci-fi was the 1980s.
Yeah.
And, we started getting more in the 70s and whatnot. But anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah. So, my first point was like how good Caesar was, but you took that. So I'm going to bring up my second point, which is how often they reference the old films.
Yeah.
Ian doesn't recognize this as much as I do.
Yes, because Tim has seen all of the original.
Yeah, I've seen all 5 of them.
Mm.
The only film I haven't seen is the first one, or the first Planet of the Apes movie made by Tim Burton. The first, like the newer one, the 2001.
Yeah, the 2001 Mark Wahlberg, Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, which I don't entirely blame Tim Burton for that one. After learning, he was kind of rushed completely through it, but I still kind of blame him for half of it.
You get some of the credit.
Well,
yeah.
So they referenced the movie a ton. In Rise, you obviously
most of that, there's a lot. Yeah, and while we watched it, like you would be watching it and then be like, why? Well, that's a reference too.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much until I watched all 5 of the films.
Yeah.
And watched the other ones. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so they bring up a lot of stuff. Like in the first movie, you have obviously the cages, and then they bring up names.
Yeah.
So much. The names reoccur throughout the whole series. The name Cornelius is like all 3 movies.
Right.
You have Cornelia in the first film, when Draco Malfoy is saying, that's Cornelia.
Yep.
You have, in the second film, his wife's Cornelia. His new son is Cornelius. And Cornelius is said a lot in the third film. Cornelius was the first, one of the apes we meet first.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The other ape we meet is Dr. Zira, which we didn't know mention of in the new trilogy. But Cornelius just because that guy, the actor that played him, was in all 5 films.
Yes.
Because that guy just would not give up on that franchise, even if it was a B-level movie at that point.
Yeah.
He played his son, actually.
Oh my! He's dedicated.
Yeah, and so, and then you have the name Caesar, which obviously also comes from the old trilogy.
Yes.
The old 5 films.
Yes,
which
of course.
has the old Caesar that takes over the revolution himself in a much, much different way. He likes humans, but is forced to like humans after leading the revolution, and then he changes the timeline so that humans and apes live a peaceful life, most likely.
Most likely.
Most likely. And the last scene in the entire 5 films is the Caesar statue, the tear coming out of it.
Right.
And it has the credits roll. It's quite ominous because we don't know if the time has completely changed or if we just fulfilled time.
Yeah.
Because it's only set 600 years after the 5th film, the final scene.
Yeah.
But the first movie takes place 2,100 years after,
Whoa.
After when the film was supposed to be made. So 2,100 years have passed since 1969 or 1968, and so obviously stuff should have happened in those 1,500 years.
Obviously.
Yeah. So another reference is the fire. They referenced fire in the old trilogy a lot. In the 4th movie, when they're training apes to be servants, they train them to be fire resistant by getting flamethrowers and holding bananas to bait them.
Ooh.
They go through the fire.
Ooh.
And then hot. They have to be fire trained, and sometimes they'll be the chefs. And if the plate catches fire, they'll freak out and they'll be fire trained to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then one of the quotes I saw as a banner in War for the Planet of the Apes was the only good Kong is a dead Kong.
Right.
And the second film, you have the General, or maybe it was the Colonel, I don't know. You have the General, who was a gorilla, because gorillas are militaristic in the old films. He is talking about the scourge of humans and how they all believe Taylor is from a different jungle across the way, and they want to go kill it, and find it and kill it. And so they, he says the only good human is a dead human.
Right. So there's a little reference there, yeah.
And then the final film has like evil military leaders, as does the final film, the Andy Serkis trilogy.
Right. Because that's one of the things I also very much liked about it, because obviously you still know more.
Yeah.
But from what you've told me, and then thinking about this Andy Serkis trilogy, the way that they're able to like if this is a kind of like reboot kind of series, like a reimagining, Planet of the Apes is how you should go about the nostalgic references, because they're able to make those like parallels to the original films without like playing on them just for the sake of it. Like it actually has some amount of relevancy to the film, especially the second two.
Yeah.
Because Rise sort of had the more of the it's like here's an original reference for you, but especially Dawn and War had those like parallels between the them and the original movies that are like just cleverly intertwined within the writing of the story.
Obviously, the action in the new trilogy is a lot better, but
effects have come a long way and all that. Yeah.
The same sort of action happens in the old trilogy. How in Dawn, they are fighting through the city streets. In Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, the fourth one.
Yeah.
The last one's Battle for the Planet of the Apes. The fourth one's Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
In Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, they also fight through a city. They don't have tanks. They're not riding horses. They have just freed themselves from their slavery. They're wearing like kitchen knives and machine guns. They're all, or generic AK-47s. They're all like walking down.
All that stuff,
and, like stabbing people with riot shields and such.
Stabbing with riot shields.
Stabbing people that have riot shields.
Oh, okay. I was just like, ooh, wow, you gotta really force that.
And they do have like a bunch of fire imagery in that battle as well. Like they also like throw grenades and stuff blows up and oil blows up.
Yeah.
Not as cool looking as the new trilogy where you see the blow up oil tanker and all the apes burning.
and of course, that fucking 360 shot.
Yeah.
From the turret of that one APC.
Oh,
that was an amazing shot.
Yes.
And that was actually because the scene, because that takes place in downtown San Francisco. I think they shot that in New Orleans. Like they closed off like for all those scenes in that part of San Francisco in quotation marks. They'd shot that in New Orleans, and like they'd closed off places and put in all like the overgrowth of vegetation and plants and all that. And then obviously I think they have like blue screen at the end of the streets. Obviously, so, the way to digital can go in later and make it more seamless and all that stuff.
The people trying to peer through.
But they have lots of the setting up of the actual explosions and real flame effects that they're throwing in there, just to get the shot right. And then of course they got to splice it all together with lots of moving apes, and because I think because then they have like a certain amount of actors in those motion capture suits. And like they're chosen by the head guy, which I wish I remembered the name of, but he was involved with all of the Planet of the Apes movies. They're sort of like ape go-to guys. Like if you want to act like an ape realistically and believably, this is who you go to. And he was like the leader guy. He also played Rocket.
Yeah.
He played Rocket as well, and also was a stunt double for Andy in places. But they had just had like around like 10 or so people in the motion capture suits, because they sort of like passed the tests, we'll say, to be apes in the film. So they'd have to do shots over and this is not just in Dawn. This goes for all of the movies. Like the Golden Gate Bridge scene in Rise, they'd have to do shots multiple times to make sure they got all of the movements right for the apes, so they can like get added up to like 30.
Yeah. That reminded me of something from episode 3. The scene where the Wookiees are, they jump up on the thing.
This is so Star Wars episode 3, if you're wondering.
The Wookiees jump up and they go, and that scene episode.
Yeah, they shot multiple
Yeah, because they only had 4 guys in wiki suits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny.
There you go. There's this.
So yeah, let's see. What's there to talk about? I don't want to get into ranking the films yet.
No, yeah, we'll do that at the end.
So,
well, there's the boopity boop.
Oh, updates available for Photoshop, which I have my trial expired today, so you know.
Oh no. Downloaded illegally.
Nah.
Well, one thing that I could say is like, and this tends to go with lots of reimaginings today of like classic films, where I remember is like watching the special features for Rise, what the director and the writer wanted to do, but they were just like, okay, let's think back to Bork. What is he barking at?
I don't know.
My dog. What is he doing? You go back to like they were thinking it was like, okay, how does like there's all this backstory and sort of illusions that we get from the classic films, and then they were just like with Rise, we kind of want to tell that story, but like our own versions. Like we want to tell how the apes did the revolution, but not exactly the way it was speculated to be, right?
Old movies have a very interesting way of going about it. That if you watch the movies in a certain order, it would seem kind of seamless.
Yeah.
And how it goes about it.
Mm-hmm.
And because they talked about in the old movies, the reason the apes rose up because they were in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Because what originally happened was in the third Planet of the Apes movie, Escape, the worst one, in my opinion. The apes travel back in time, and because they travel back in time, certain apes travel back in time, Cornelius and Zira, and their unborn baby, they bring a flu with them that's like space, like was in their time, that didn't affect them, because it already happened.
Right.
In a way. They brought the film back, they brought the film, they brought the...
they found a recording of their own movie.
They brought the flu back early, because the flu kills all pets. They would kill their dogs, their cats, their turtles, their fish, and so they needed a pet. And the only one that would seem to live through the disease that they held but didn't kill them was apes. So eventually apes became a pet, but then they saw, hey, this ape is smart, it can do stuff.
And I guess, that's another illusion that Rise made too, because, there's a thing where, Caesar is going through Redwood Forest, and then he sees the dog with the leash.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at it and like feeling his own leash, and like later in the car, and James Franco's character is like all right, Caesar, what's going on? You upset? And then there's that little conversation where James Franco's character has to like assure Caesar's like, you're not a pet, okay? But there's like that moment of doubt, like that moment of realization of the world that you live in. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, am I a pet?
Yeah.
It's like, am I like actually his friend or am I a pet?
Well, you see. The problem was with the old movies was they went from pets to, like, as Cornelius described it in the third movie, but could a dog do your dishes? Could a dog make your dinner for you? Could a dog do your laundry? And that's what apes were. They were your pet that could do all your chores. And eventually, it became slavery. And after, I think he describes it as 200 years, which is broken by the timeline that they break themselves with their child.
Good job.
After 200 years, the first ape named... his name starts with A. He's the ape they base their religion off of. He's the first ape that comes up to the humans, and he says something he's heard this whole life. He says no. And in the fourth film, you see how the apes are treated to the word no. The people say no, and they're strapped to headsets that shock them if they hear the word no. And in the fifth movie, where ape and human society is mixed, human to say no is like a horrid word.
Oh, it's like a swear word, or it's like blasphemy, and
like a racial slur in a way that all the apes get furious because no human is allowed to say no.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just in that way, but like, and then in the back to the flu thing. In the new movies, they also had the flu. So if you watched it in a certain way, if you didn't watch Rise, but you watched Conquest and then you went to Dawn, it would seem like the simian flu may have been a cause to kill off people as well, but
Right.
but you don't see any dogs or anything running around.
Yeah.
So yeah, reference, I guess.
Yeah.
You just
Well,
watching us and eating chips.
it's not a chip, Tim. It's a wheat thick. Anyway.
You're enjoying this,
Tim, focus.
Distracted.
That's something. See, now you made me forget, dude.
Oops.
You two share the blame.
Sean, can you take my
Tim, focus. We're recording a podcast.
I thought we were. We've just been talking for 50 minutes.
Yeah, but we're also recording. We can't get distracted on the outside world.
Fine.
Yeah. Anyway.
Shut up. Alright, do you want to bring up one last point before we rank them, or?
Well, I just wish we could talk about it more, because it seems to me there seems to be more talk about the original than it ended up being the new.
Yeah. It's just me talking, though.
Tim, you little... I'm just kidding.
Talked about... Alright, let's do a thing.
Yeah.
What's the best villain that we've had in all three of the films? Because the first film, it's a combination of the guy from Genesis. Is that a company name? I feel like it is.
No, I can't remember. But
It's
it's the black dude.
The black dude.
The black corporate dude.
And the one eight-tamer guy. And no.
The what?
Malfoy. That's
Yeah. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
second film, it's Koba, obviously. Third film, it's the Colonel. Which villain do you think is the best?
Well, I think Woody Harrelson did a really great job in War as that villain of the Colonel. Sort of a legitimate counter argument to humans and apes coexisting.
Yeah.
Because obviously the virus had evolved. So there's sort of a reason that he has to go about the things that he wanted to do, because he, like the apes, just wants to survive. Yeah. And unfortunately for the apes, that means they have to die, otherwise humans will die without the apes even trying, just because of the virus.
Yeah.
And I really liked how he played that character, because, his son had to kill his own son, right? that kind of decision, and the way he's able to encapsulate that within the character without being too dramatic about it, but able to convey that dread and that sense of emotion. Yeah. But at the same time, Toby Kebbell's Koba was sort of equal parts that. The way he's able to go back and forth between the submissive, yes, I'm going to listen to you, Caesar, I'm sorry for doing this, to just straight up the most evil thing.
Yeah.
And I think I would give it to Koba, because ultimately the villain that returns in War for the Planet of the Apes is Koba, as sort of as his hallucination for Caesar,
as Caesar's own inner demons.
And then Caesar has to come to terms with that. It's just I thought I could be better than Koba, if something like this happened, and then that's when he's finally come to terms with. Yeah, I kind of understand why Koba did the things that he did now. Mm-hmm. Because now the humans have, really done something bad to me. Because before it was, in a sense, Caesar watching bad things happen to other apes.
Yeah. And
some bad things happened to him. But he just, he led the revolution, sticking up for apes, the other apes. Yeah. But it was War for the Planet of the Apes when, his wife and his son are killed. That it's just now that's direct human action against my character. This is not on any other ape but me, kind of thing. And then he goes on his Clint Eastwood, as described by the director. It's sort of a Clint Eastwood revenge kind of story. But I think I would give it to Koba, because there's that whole element of betrayal, but also that complexity to it, and of course the last scene with Koba and Dawn, where maybe I told you this before, but when Andy Serkis read it on the page when they were reading the script, when he sees that Caesar lets Koba die, he was surprised by that, because he was just well, this isn't in Caesar's character. But then when they were playing out the scene, they were just it makes sense. It's kind of as much as Caesar has that kind of obligation, he realizes that. We'll say too dangerous to be left alive, kind of thing.
He's too
there's
dangerous.
no matter what he can do, Koba will always be, forever defiant from then on. So he has to kill Koba, and he doesn't do it with pleasure.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think Koba's just you sort of had that momentum building from Rise. All the stuff that Koba personally experienced, especially.
Yeah.
And then it, mounted, of course, the scene where he's just like human work, and then he was pointing to all the scars and all that. That's all mounting. So it's a perfect story of betrayal, and I think he does a number. And of course, Koba technically is the reason that war starts in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would also give it to Koba,
but
Colonel comes with a close second.
I know it's so close, and that. Next, I'll say that in a bit. I'll let you finish.
But I would say, like the black guy from Rise and Malfoy don't really come close because they were just kind of like I would say a stereotype.
Well,
of what they were meant to be.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, and I think that goes for Rise in general. As I didn't feel lost when I watched Dawn, having not seen Rise, because Rise, I'll say, is a it's a good movie. It really is. It sets up this really great and brand new reinvention of the Planet of the Apes world, and it does it very well. Okay, but it's not just no. I can't talk. That's like the third time. Excuse me.
Oops.
It's not on the level of Dawn or War, but it sets it up really good.
Yeah.
But, and we need the extra information we have in Rise. Because like when I finally watched Rise, to finally get like those smaller details, this is good. Like it's not a waste, but it's not the most necessary thing. It does a great job, and without Rise, we wouldn't have the other two films.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. Let's rank them.
Go first.
Numero uno. Dawn. Close second. War. And then there's third that's Rise.
Yeah. My ranking is actually the same.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then in
because I can't quite put my finger on it as to why, because Dawn and War are basically neck and neck.
Yeah.
But there's just something about Dawn, and maybe it's Koba or something that just puts it just one step above. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then in front of all that's the 1968 movie.
There it is.
The OG.
Yeah, there it is. OG, and then
all right.
Dawn, War, followed by.
That's the mandatory meeting set in place. Shall we do? Sean will be our.
Yes.
Sean the man. All right. HR. Do you have anything?
No.
Right,
you have the one thing, yeah.
I'll bring up Tony because we haven't got any comments from
my other friend. I have lots of friends apparently. That
you see, Cameron hasn't commented, or
come on, Cameron.
He might guest host next week, so don't do him that much hate.
It's true, yeah.
And then Brady's only commented a smiley face. He's the only comment last video.
Have you asked him whether or not he's actually watched more than 5 minutes of an episode?
I don't think so. Hopefully he listens to the first couple seconds or first minute of the next episode. To
at least, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Woo.
Hello.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Ian's friend, and my friend slightly, Tony.
Slightly. Tony
came up to both of us and said, "You're dumb and your podcast's dumb," and we both responded with "True, true."
True.
Yeah. Except the podcast is not as dumb as Ian.
True.
All right.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
As we were gonna say, comment, please.
Any kind of feedback's good.
Make sure to visit our website. Join our Steam page if you want to.
Follow us on Facebook.
And Twitter in like 3 weeks probably.
When we get like an actual definitive, like, this is our Twitter officially thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, Sean. Today's
Come on over with the text-to-speech.
Guest host Sean.
It's not a guest host, Tim. It's a guest like appearance. It's just a cameo.
Alright, cameo Sean.
Thank you for watching our podcast. We hope you have enjoyed it.